We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us this morning. We're talking about PTSD with Dr. Erica Barnes. She does that work with veterans through the Veterans Administration. She's joining us live this morning. And hey, we've got Joe on the line. Let's take that call real quick before we lose him again. We had a phone call coming in first section, and we got Joe right here. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Dick.
What's on your mind?
My heart goes out to all the servicemen and women, but this is a sad situation because we've got these people coming back that's got PTSD and lost limbs and other body parts and stuff, and I wasn't really happy with the Afghanistan war. The Russians fought over there for 8 years. They figured out right quick that this was a losing battle because the people over there wouldn't even protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to have a big influx of people with PTSD and other abnormalities, and it's a sad situation.
Doctor, I wonder, as he's going to that, part of the treatment, he kind of hit on some of the reasons people are going to be frustrated, these veterans, and there can be different opinions on how this war should have been handled and how any withdrawal would have occurred. Is that any part of the treatment, discussing that? I mean, they'll bring that up. I know as a physician, you're not going to take any political point of view, but they're going to say, look, I mean, what do you tell them when a veteran comes in and is like, I'm having a flare-up of this, I feel such anxiety, and I feel as though what I did in Afghanistan was all for naught now because of this, and they're back to square one where they were 20 years ago. How do you reason with someone along a point that's hard to argue with?
Absolutely. And this is part of what is keeping people stuck in their PTSD symptoms. So it's absolutely something that we talk about and address in therapy. There's a couple of different ways that we address it. First, we're looking at kind of what the feelings are that they're having and just acknowledging how they feel, that sadness, that grief, the loss. Sometimes they're not allowing themselves even the ability to feel it. And then we help them to make meaning of their service. So it doesn't mean that we get to answer every question. We can't change the reality of the facts that happened. It's giving them a chance to try to figure out, how can I find healing in this? How can I find some way that I can still move forward in a meaningful way? So for example, for Afghanistan, it might be, but we lost lives. We didn't gain the ground that we wanted in the end. It's looking at what was still meaningful about that service. Did you help someone? Did you make an impact on someone? What did that service mean for you that you're taking forward in your life? So it doesn't mean that we can change things, but we can find a way to look at them a little bit different. And so even though we don't have the answers to that question, there's ways to find out how to engage in your life with the fact that this still didn't go the way you wanted. So how do you still find meaning in your life? How do you still enjoy the things that you want to? Making sure that you're coping in a positive way. Isolating and withdrawing and pushing emotions down will always make them come out worse on the other side. So how do you feel them now and engage in those positive activities in your life and finding that meaning?
Yeah, you understand why soldiers obviously probably take pride in their service as they go, and they do so to serve their country. Does it help in any way, the way I view it, regardless, and we all have opinions on various conflicts we all face, but that the soldiers don't have a choice in that, do they? I mean, they are part of the armed forces, and then they go where their political leaders send them. And so is that any part of it? I mean, I know they take pride then when they partake in it, and then they see maybe how it turned out, maybe not what they expected. But, this wasn't their choice. I mean, they can just take pride in the fact that they served and went when they were called, and it certainly wasn't their decision one way or the other.
Absolutely. We definitely see that a lot. And so it certainly can be acknowledging that I did what to the best of my ability,
sure,
in the parameters that I had. And we also want to recognize sometimes taking a different perspective, we can get really zoned in on the one experience that we had, the one deployment that we had. This is actually not a new experience to war and being in the military, but being deployed somewhere and it not going the way we wanted. In fact, we're seeing a lot of parallels with Vietnam and with the Vietnam era veterans. So this is actually a chance for service members across service eras to actually come together and see how they healed and coped and get through through this, and recognize that is the unfortunate incidents that happen in war. We have to make sense of when things don't go as we wanted or planned.
Let's take another phone call for you. We have Ann on line 1. Ann, good morning. Hi, Ann.
Good morning.
Morning.
This doesn't involve service members, but it does involve PTSD. And I recently got to spend time with a daughter that lives in New York and has seen an awful lot of COVID death. And an awful lot has happened in this last year. She was, before this, a very independent child that had several traumas in her life and was always very independent, to the point of walking from Delaware to California by herself. And in spending 10 days with her in the last 3 weeks, can honestly say she is in counseling, but is suffering such PTSD, it has affected every family relationship she has. It has affected the ability to be in a car with family members, being inside a house and not having windows and doors open for air to circulate. And it will be months and months and months in her recovery process, because COVID is non-ending. And every time she has gotten a handle on it, it has recycled. And our servicemen are going to be doing the same thing. Every time they get a handle on it, there's going to be a resurgence on the TV or in the news. And what do the families do? Where are the services for the families? I don't know how to help my daughter, and I try to keep informed, and I try to tell myself I'm semi-intelligent. But in spending time with my daughter, I felt helpless.
Dr. Barnes?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I'm really sorry to hear what's going on with your daughter, and that's actually a really important experience that a lot of frontline individuals in healthcare are having right now, a strong trauma reaction to seeing COVID and COVID death in front of them. So great question about what family members can do in general. You're already doing the first step, which is just being there, being supportive. Let her know that you're able to be there if you want to talk. Encouraging them to get help is certainly a good step, but also making sure you're getting help too. So NAMI is a great resource for family members as well that are non-service members to get that support. And certainly at the VA, if you have a veteran, we have family services as well. We have couples counseling. You can even be involved in some of your veteran service members' care. So always know that there are options that you can do. Reach out for help and just keep encouraging them to get help and be there as soon as they're ready to talk about it and deal with it. Like I said, the worst things you can do are isolate and withdraw. So any ways that you can help them to draw out is going to be important, as well as giving that hope that things can get better. We know with the top line of PTSD treatment, so make sure that people are getting in with a PTSD specialist, is that you can find meaning and recover from traumatic experiences to the point that even if you were to be exposed to a trauma again, you can handle it in a different way. It doesn't always mean that you have to have a resurgence of your PTSD symptoms. So we want to get someone to be able to get to that point before they get exposed again.
And Doctor, I'm wondering, in addition to the counseling and the talking, is there any medicine that comes into play here? Any kind of drug treatment that sometimes is used, and whether or not it's long or short term? I'm curious. I'm talking about one that's prescribed. I know there are unfortunately some soldiers who self-medicate, which of course is not helpful, but I mean, is that part of the program?
Yeah, so although we have the gold standard in treatment is trauma therapies, there's many other different types of things that can help people if they don't have the time or the readiness to be able to do that. So there's certain medications that they can get a psychiatrist or a medication provider to engage in. There's also other whole health options that we have, just engaging in like yoga and Tai Chi, being able to engage in positive activities. We have veterans organizations that have fishing trips and hiking trips So getting involved with organizations, volunteering, getting out, getting involved with your friends and your family, those are all ways that are positive coping and are going to make it easier for you.
I guess part of the issue there, yeah, getting involved. It's just the natural thing, though, sometimes when you're feeling lousy is just to withdraw, right?
Exactly. And that's what we're fighting against, is that avoidance. That's actually what keeps PTSD symptoms alive, is the more that we avoid it, the more it builds, the more it doesn't go away. So really how you're coping now is going to make it easier to deal with it later.
The best way for folks maybe who are watching today to get help for a loved one or to learn more, where do you suggest they go? How do they go about doing it? I suppose the VA is in a position to help with that, but how do they go about doing so?
Yeah, we actually have a National Center for PTSD website that anybody can go to learn information. And we have information there for family members, for veterans, talks about what PTSD is, what treatments are available. They can watch videos, they can download pamphlets. It has all the information that you could need. And
right under your head on the screen right now, we have the 1-800 Veterans Crisis Line as well, where you can press 1 if you need help, 273-8255. So most important thing to remember is that there is help on the way, but we're talking about this today because things are happening in the world that trigger this. And Doctor, I really appreciate you coming on this morning, taking some time out of your morning.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. Listen, thank you again. It's Dr. Erica Barnes, and appreciate your time, ma'am. Listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll shift gears. The second part of the program, PTSD can take forms for a number of reactions. We talk about Afghanistan, how that affects soldiers back here now as we see the withdrawal. But right now, I can tell you there are folks in Humphreys County suffering from PTSD after that horrible, horrible flood from this past weekend. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the very latest out of Humphreys County, including just into the newsroom, some of the 911 calls made Saturday morning as the floodwaters first began to hit. Those calls are chilling. We'll take a break and be back with more, and your phone calls as well if you'd like to weigh in right after this.